For more than 30 years, Wichita, Kansas lived under a shadow it could not see. A killer stalked quiet streets, watched homes from parked cars, and chose victims at random. He didn't run from the police. He mocked them. He didn't hide his crimes. He signed them. He called himself BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill. By day, he was a husband, a father, a church leader, and a Boy Scout volunteer. By night, he was a predator who derived pleasure from fear, control, and slow death. Families were destroyed, children were murdered, and an entire city was forced to wait, helplessly, for the next victim. This is not just the story of a serial killer. It's the story of how evil can live next door, how a monster hid behind normality, and how one fatal mistake finally exposed him. This is the chilling true story of Dennis Rader. Wichita before the terror. Wichita was never supposed to be a city of fear. Known for its aviation industry and deep religious roots, it was a place where violent crime was rare and neighbors trusted one another. Murders like the ones that were about to happen were things people associated with big cities, not the American heartland. That illusion shattered in January 1974, when police responded to a crime scene unlike anything they had ever seen. A family of 4 had been murdered inside their own home in a ritualistic, calculated manner. There were no signs of forced entry, no robbery, and no clear motive. It was immediately clear this was not a random act. It was deliberate. For the people of Wichita, the realization was terrifying. Someone capable of unimaginable cruelty was among them, and no one knew who or where he would strike next. The Otero family murders. The murder of the Otero family marked the beginning of BTK's reign of terror. Dennis Rader entered the home, cut the phone lines, and waited. What followed was systematic and cold-blooded. He strangled the parents, then turned on their children. The crime was not rushed. It was controlled. The killer took time, watched, and inflicted suffering deliberately. This wasn't violence driven by rage. It was violence driven by fantasy and dominance. Investigators were shaken. Even veteran detectives described the scene as one of the most disturbing they had ever encountered. The brutality suggested a sexual motive, but the lack of evidence left police with no suspect. What they didn't know yet was that this was only the beginning, and that the killer was already planning his next move. Born normal, thinking dark. Dennis Rader's childhood showed no obvious warning signs. He grew up in a stable home, did well in school, and blended in socially. To teachers and classmates, he was quiet but unremarkable. But beneath that normal surface, disturbing fantasies were forming. Rader later admitted he was fascinated by death, control, and suffering from a young age. He took pleasure in harming animals and developed a fixation on women's clothing, bondage, and domination. One pivotal moment occurred in early adolescence, when humiliation turned into sexual gratification. From that point on, rope, control, and voyeurism became fused with pleasure in his mind. These fantasies didn't fade with age. They matured, intensified, and eventually demanded expression in the real world. The double life. As an adult, Rader mastered compartmentalization. He served in the U.S. Air Force, married, had children, and became deeply involved in his church and community. At the same time, he fed his fantasies through stalking, writing, and drawing violent scenes. He studied crime, learned from other serial killers, and carefully refined his methods to avoid detection. To everyone around him, he was disciplined, orderly, and moral. In reality, he was rehearsing murder. This ability to switch between loving father and sadistic predator is what allowed him to evade capture for decades. The monster didn't disappear. It simply waited. BTK emerges. After killing again, Rader made a critical decision. He wanted recognition. He began writing letters to police and media outlets, describing his crimes in detail and demanding attention. He coined the name BTK and played psychological games with authorities, proving he knew details only the killer could know. These letters terrified the public and frustrated law enforcement. Every message confirmed one thing: BTK wasn't done. For Rader, murder wasn't just about killing. It was about power, fear, and control, not only over victims, but over an entire city. Methodical and sadistic, BTK didn't act impulsively. He stalked victims for weeks or months, learning routines and weaknesses. He carried a prepared kit containing rope, tape, weapons, and masks. His killings followed a pattern: restraint, suffocation, and prolonged suffering. He often stopped just short of death and then resumed, maximizing fear and control. Psychologists later identified his behavior as sexual sadism, where pain and dominance are the primary sources of arousal. For Rader, murder was not a means to an end. It was the fantasy. Hiding in plain sight, while Wichita waited in fear, Rader lived openly. He worked as a city compliance officer, enforcing minor laws with extreme control and obsession. He was known for being strict, rigid, and intimidating. At home, he kept trophies from his crimes, photographs, objects, and writings, hidden away for his private rituals. Then, in 2004, after years of silence, BTK returned. He couldn't resist attention. His need to be acknowledged would ultimately betray him. The mistake that ended it all. In a fatal act of arrogance, BTK asked police if a floppy disk could be traced. When authorities assured him it couldn't, he believed them. They lied. Metadata on the disk led directly to Dennis Rader, president of a Lutheran church and longtime community member. In 2005, he was arrested without resistance. After decades of terror, BTK was finally exposed, not as a shadowy monster, but as a man everyone thought they knew. Dennis Rader's story leaves us with an unsettling truth. Evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it wears a uniform, attends church, raises children, and blends perfectly into society. For over 3 decades, BTK thrived on secrecy, fear, and control, until his own arrogance exposed him. The pain he caused can never be undone, and the scars left on Wichita will never fully heal. His capture didn't bring closure, but it ended the terror and returned a sense of safety to a city that lived in fear for far too long. If this documentary impacted you, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it to keep these stories from being forgotten.